Good morning, everyone. Today I have the privilege of evaluating Dan's speech. Today, Dan is going to be doing an icebreaker, and of course, Dan has broken the ice with us many times over the years. But he is starting a new pathways path um, into what is referred to as a visionary communicator path. And so Dan is starting this new path in pathways, and one of the first steps is to do an icebreaker. And so because Dan has already broke the ice with this, there's a larger bar. Dan is not just breaking the ice. Instead of calling this an icebreaker, we're going to call it a glacier breaker. But the icebreaker is an opportunity for Dan to be able to share something about himself, and in fact, he's going to be doing that. Looking forward to that. So I'm going to be looking for Dan to be able to provide some insights, maybe some anecdote stories about himself. I'll be looking for how well he projects himself to our audience, how his interests could be communicated to our club and interested to us as well. And I'll also be looking for a way that Dan is able to provide contrast, both in the volume of his speaking, the tone of his speaking, and also contrast in the emotional contrast throughout his story. So looking for all that, looking forward to providing an evaluation and sharing that with the club today. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Chris. The title of Dan's speech is Snapshot November 2020. And he'll be providing information about himself and where he reflects on a few activities that he enjoys and finds interesting. Let's welcome up Dan.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, and thank you, Chris, for that introduction and for that high bar that you set. Let's hope I can, well, at least not hit my head when I jump under it. I thought I would kind of just make this very much a present tense icebreaker, talk about myself, what I'm doing these days, because currently I'm really focused in the present. Sometimes I am very reflective of the past. Sometimes I'm thinking about, oh my gosh, like Martin, for example, thinking about the future. But right now I am really focused on the present. And I've really been enjoying myself quite a bit. And I wanted to just share a little bit of that. What is going on? Well, it's mainly a mixture of work and play. For work, well, I'm an electrical engineer, and I really get a kick out of what I do because I get to design circuits, and it's a great time to be an electrical engineer because the tools are just so much fun. I get to not only design the circuit, but I can also do a few little mechanical things with it, all within my circuit design program. And as you can see on the bottom right there, there's this circuit, it's called the flex board, but you can see it's all folded up. It's like a little contraption. It's actually a camera, and that's a camera on the tip with an LED, that yellow thing. But the point is, I really get a kick out of being able to design something like this. And the tools these days let you do something like this. I actually received this, and sure enough, it folds pretty much like it was designed. Another major aspect of what I do for a living is I write software. I actually get into it quite a bit, and I write applications. This is part of a commercial application for a medical product, and I do a lot of work with imaging. And so you could see that this application, bottom right, is displaying in a big circle a large video image, and it's a video stream basically that's coming from a camera. There's all sorts of widgets and things like that that are supposed to be user friendly to the physician, to the physician and to the nurses, everybody that's basically an operator for this device. So enough of work. Family. So I have a wife, Lynn, and a son, Sammy. That's Sammy. He's throwing the basketball. We get into sports quite a bit. One of the sports that we're really into these days and that I've become somewhat passionate about is, it's called stand-up paddling. And you can see people here, they're just standing up on their paddle, on their board. It's like a surfboard, but somewhat larger, and they're paddling around. We've often gone to Lake Tahoe to do this. That's Sammy in the foreground. He's actually sitting on his board. I'm out there standing. And it's a blast. And literally, we had a whole beach to ourselves practically, just this past October. Tahoe's gotten pretty cold. So we've been heading over to Half Moon Bay, and there's a nice harbor there that we like to paddle around in. And you can see it's very, very tame water. You can see here that there's a lot of people with kayaks. There's seals that come around. I've seen seals that even jump, almost halfway jump onto these kayaks. It's pretty scary. I was there last weekend actually, and I was only about 10 feet away from this seal that was jumping on the kayak. And I was thinking, my gosh, what if this seal does this to me? I'd be dunked instantly. Stand-up paddling is a pretty sedate sport, of course, but there are more things that you can do with it. And here is something I would really love to do. You can see this guy is surfing with a stand-up paddle board and a paddle. What's really cool about this sport is that you don't have to get suddenly into surfing if you want to surf with it. It's all transitional. So you can start by what we're doing, which is just quiet water, stand-up paddling. But then you could challenge yourself a little bit more. You could go downwind with small rolling waves, tiny waves, kind of a more like a what do you call it? It's a, you know, it's the surf basically, the easy waves, and you could just transition to make it harder and harder. And I think that's really cool about it. And I discovered all this by asking myself, my gosh, there's got to be a lot more to this sport than just standing up and paddling about in still water. And sure enough, there's a whole world of really exciting things you can do with this. My son Sammy is into music, and I thought, well, my wife being the musician, Sammy being the musician, I'm not the musician of the family, but I thought there's one little thing that may be kind of absent from his musical education, and it's something I know a little bit about, and I often focus on it more from an engineering viewpoint, and that's music theory, specifically ear training. So I thought I'll sign Sammy up for an ear training class, and maybe I'll just take it along with him. So that's what we've been doing. And here we've been trying to practice learning what's called harmonic thirds. It's just you play two notes together and you guess whether it's a major third or a minor third. If you play those two chords side by side, one after the other, it's incredibly obvious. But it's not so obvious when they're jumping around from one scale to another and randomizing things. And more often than not, we pick the wrong one, and it's just been driving me crazy. Sammy's a little bit more patient with it, but boy, I'll tell you, it's challenging. We even brought my wife and we brought Lynn in to try it out, and she was stumped quite a bit too. I've become somewhat addicted to YouTube in the sense that, well, I guess I used to be at times addicted to TV, but now it's YouTube. YouTube's a lot better. There's a whole lot of things. There's just a whole big world to explore that I just get a real big kick out of. You can see this list of things. New York pizza. I've given a talk on pizza before, but all these other things as well. Music, history, you name it. It's all there. It's fantastic. And I've even thought maybe it would be fun to actually get out there and maybe have some kind of a YouTube channel. Something I've thought about, and maybe being in this club, especially with Stephen, who knows about these things, maybe I'll take a few steps closer to doing that. Why not? As it says on the slide here. Let's get a little practice in for this YouTube. So if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. If you want to support me, you can go on to Patreon and support me, hopefully monthly. And if you like what you heard, give me a big thumbs up. But if you don't plan to give me a thumbs up, I'm disabling comments for this video. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. First, I will call on the first evaluator, which will be Chris. Chris, can you unmute yourself and give your evaluation?
Thank you, Ranjita. Dan provided a very enjoyable icebreaker, allowing us to peer into his present life. And structurally, he set it up really well. He framed it really well because his introduction, he let us know that he was going to provide this update for what he's been thinking about and doing in the present, that at this point in life, while in other parts of his life, he would reflect back or look forward, that he really has been focusing on the present. So he framed it that way. And then he let us peer into what that looked like. In the body of his speech, he did that in two ways. He let us peer into what he's working on in the present, and then he let us peer into what he's doing with his hobbies and with his family. And so he set that up really well. And then specifically getting into the body of his speech, he talked about the things that he's working on. And I was particularly fascinated with those topics because I've got an engineering background. And so seeing that Dan was able to create this flex, design a circuit, apply it to a flex circuit, fold it into a hardware assembly with a camera was really fascinating. That was the first half. And then the second half was, he showed, but wait, there's more. I don't just design these amazing pieces of hardware. I will also literally apply this hardware and design the application that lets physicians use this equipment. And here's what that looks like. And so that was just really neat as well. I think if there's any feedback for that portion, it would be maybe to kind of walk through how the application is used a little bit more, almost the human piece of that great technology that Dan is able to create and bring to the world. But I really enjoyed that. And then, so the rest of the body, which was really the second 2/3 of the body, he shared us what he's working on in his free time with his family, and specifically paddleboarding. And of course, Dan, he utilized the slides, the visuals, which enhanced his speech even further. So just describing and painting the picture with words of what his paddleboarding adventures look like, that was supplemented by those vivid images of paddleboarding in Lake Tahoe, which of course we all know is just beautiful, and then in Half Moon Bay. And so that was really neat. And then the aspiration, look, I want to look like this guy. Like, this guy's surfing. How cool is that? Really enjoyed that. And then of course the other part of the body. Sorry, lost my place. The ear testing, I had a note, and I wasn't able to find the specific name, but the type of ear testing and sharing that with his son was really interesting and opening, peered into part of Dan's personal life of the things that he had done. And then the YouTube, having the long list of topics that you're able to explore with YouTube, and we think we all agree YouTube has really improved over the years and just provides this wealth of information that you're able to explore. Overall, I thought that I really enjoyed the speech. It was very pleasant to see all those pieces. I was, half joking that it was not an icebreaker, a glacier breaker. And so I'll ask you, was it an icebreaker or was it a glacier breaker? And it was not a glacier breaker. It was an amazing icebreaker. I loved it. I enjoyed it. The reason it wasn't a glacier breaker is that I mentioned in storytelling, and it's not that he didn't tell stories in this, storytelling aside, but I mentioned in the storytelling workshop, the 3 words, conflict changes life. And I've been thinking about that a lot lately because it applies, I think, to anything that we do with other people, whether it's telling a story or in a business meeting or teaching someone something, that if there's not an aspect of conflict, of tension in it, then it's less memorable. It's harder to remember it and to learn from it and to reflect on it. That conflict that changes, literally, even a micro change, conflict changes life. That's something that you can remember. So I think that if Dan, and there were certainly opportunities to describe more conflict, to describe more tension, whether in each of those aspects, it would have been even more memorable. But honestly, it was very enjoyable, very pleasant. I very much enjoyed having that looking glass into Dan's life, and I did a great job. Back to you, Madam Evaluator.